Welcome. And we are going to talk about mark layers. And this is specifically what you guys, voted for last month. And so we just want to let you know we do take that seriously. So thank you for participating and letting us know what you think would be useful and helpful. So um, we, as you know, we do this every month. On the second Wednesday of the month, I have a quick list of things that are coming up. And of things that are DDC and otherwise that ZO is involved in. Um, and then I'm going to also pass to you in a minute to talk about your tug, if you don't mind, please kind of think about that, Lauren. We have a couple of really great presentations coming up in what we're helping to bring to uh, online webinars this month. Tomorrow, a good friend and Tableau conference speaker, Gafar Shah, he works at Vanguard. He's going to be re-delivering his data literacy presentation, along with a spotlight guest, Kelsey Orlick from Denver. She's one of the Data Fam Rising Stars. She's got some really great, she uses map layers and mark layers to a whole nother level. So she's going to be our guest there that we're going to spotlight. Then the San Francisco tug that I co-lead, is having Lewis Yu coming in. He's a Tableau visionary, and he's going to be talking about using Tableau's MCP protocol to API to be able to get Claude connected to it and do well with it. He was one of the early adopters and is going to be talking about not only just his career progression, but also mostly about Claude and how to use it well with Tableau. Our DDC, based on y'all's feedback, we decided to use that time to talk about Tableau Plus. As you may or may not have heard, the Tableau agent, which is a lot of these toolings and feature sets that's under the hood, is now being called in a couple of bundles. And I want to just kind of decode what's included in what, and then also give you a demo of what those things are. We have a couple of different cloud sites that we have those things set up for them. So that'll span from the Q&A that you can do inside of Tableau Cloud through a quick update on what's happening presently with Tableau Next. So more like demos and show the feature sets that are happening. Now, part of the reason that my interest has been in this direction beyond the fact that I've been involved in the Tableau Next betas is spent a disproportionate amount of time with Tableau Pulse this summer and being connected with that team that's doing the biweekly releases, and they are also being impacted by the Tableau agent coming in, because there is literally a Chat GPT 5.2 that's going to be on the backside of Pulse, the Q&A section of Pulse. So Pulse, if you haven't looked at Pulse lately, this year, this particularly 2026, has been a really productive and feature-rich year for them, and there's ways to implement it very shallowly that you kind of get a shallow result out of it, and then ways to add context and links and things that make it much more robust experience for your users. So if you have any interest in that, definitely this is a good time to dive in. We'll be happy to talk to you offline about it. So thing we're going to dive in today is mark layers, and then just want to mention in terms of like the next topic after this is composable data sources. Is a topic that is top of mind for myself and for Lauren. We'd very much like to hear your feedback as we go through today on if that's something you're interested in. I just got the chance to invite one of our industry leaders to come talk to us about it in September. So unless y'all say you're not interested at all, that's likely what we'll do in September. So that's kind of the roadmap of where we're headed here. Hope that sounds good to everybody. I'm rather excited about what's coming up, and but it's all about what you guys would like to hear and see what might make a difference in your world. So I almost feel like every month when I look at this slide deck about taking this slide out, this is like so old news here now, but we are in a webinar format, except for we've left it where you guys can potentially come off of mute and talk to us. So please, any questions in chat, we welcome those. It makes it more fun, more interactive. So, and for any of you that didn't, wait, let me finish this other part first. Sorry about that. This is Lauren's and my project that we bring to you monthly. So, and Lauren, would you kindly introduce yourself for anybody who hasn't had a chance to meet you yet?
Yeah, so I'm Lauren Cristaldi. I'm based out of Charleston, South Carolina. I run the Charleston Tug. We haven't had any events recently, but I pushed that to August just because I'll be in the UK for most of this month. Then I've been in Tableau for almost 10 years, um, but I'm okay with the 8 years because that means I'm younger, so that's fine.
Okay,
Um, yeah.
I'm updating that this time.
No, no, I mean, you're good. You're good. I manage our data analytics team here at ZO. Been with ZO for this is my 4th year, and I come from a state government background, just for y'all that don't know me. But I think I know most people on here. Celia and I have been doing this for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I love it that that's your background though, because I mean, not though, because it made when you wherever you are, if you especially if you're in a state and government situation, you being resourceful is required,
Oh,
and so
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I do all
yeah.
kinds of crazy stuff with PowerPoint, like making shapes and backgrounds, and
Mm-hmm,
it's so nice having access to other tools now, but
mm-hmm. Right. Yeah,
makes you
and it's like
creative.
I guess also if you're in a startup, that's going to be the case where the budgets
Yeah.
are tight and you and creativity is required. Um, so I am the lead for training and enablement at Zeo Matrix, and also do part time at University of San Francisco. Um, Data has been my full career. Like started in databases a long time ago, but analytics has been the key focal point of the last 15 years. 10 of them I've been teaching. I should say I'm an accidental educator, except I really like helping people and helping them take it to the next level. So that's why I landed in this zone of being in education. So with that we're gonna jump over into Mark Layers. I changed the you can see that I just changed the title of the session every time I have a different slide about it. It's even different than the announcement, but the goal of this is to have you walk through with me a couple of examples because being able to use it for the work that we're doing is going to be a game changer. And so the in chat, if you let me reshare in case I'm not sure if this chat will show depending on when you joined. I don't think that got the whole link. Let me try that one more time. There we go. Okay. If you feel free to look at that. The link that I just shared should take you to a directory. Get the zoom window out of the way, and I can actually show you that directory. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be the starter workbook that's going to look exactly like mine if you open it up straight away. And you don't necessarily need to have these two CSVs, but they are the data sets that one's a CSV and one do see that one's an Excel file. But those are the two source files that were fueling this particular workbook. And so if the TWVX decides that it can't find its source files, you've got them to be able to reconnect them. So that's what's in the shared link in the directory. So please, even if you're just going to relax and watch what I'm going to do, I would recommend that you go ahead and grab that so that you have it for later, because I feel like building charts with Mark Layers just takes a little bit of practice and it's a different mindset than the typical Tableau way of doing things, but it is really high performant. And so that actually is like one of the first points to make here. And Lauren, I'm going to invite you to please make a few comments about it. Lauren is the first person I sat with and learned from about last summer timeframe because I always thought that it was going to be too time consuming. But watching what she's done and the elegance of it, she on her Tableau Public page, if you have a chance to go take a look, she's got some beautiful things that are, some of it we used to have to, like she said, use PowerPoint or Canva or something to do the more elegant kind of presentations of things. But then with Mark Layers, and it went from map layers to Mark Layers to chart layers. So it sounds like I'm stumbling on my words, it's just I'm trying to keep up with the terms changing because we used to, as you see, when we drag it on, it won't say map layers anymore. So it's in Mark Layers because it is where we place the marks, but it's more performant. It auto fits auto size is better. So, and Lauren, you're the by far the expert on this. Is there anything you want to add there about reasons to use them?
Yeah, I think, well, so it's really helpful if you have any custom formatting that you're trying to do. Also, I've been using them recently more for passing like parameter filter actions. So you're
Oh,
able to
wow.
like establish, so say you have a measure in a view and you want to go to the detailed version of that, like with, I don't know, account IDs, like more granularity. Well, it's hard to do that if you're just using measures from like the measure value shelf. You're not going to get an accurate like filtering. So this helps and it's more performant to use those parameter actions anyway. And so it takes you to that detailed view and you're only seeing the detail behind that like percentage roll up measure value.
Oh, that's cool. That's great.
So yeah, that's my favorite one right now for use
Okay.
case.
All right. Well, we may have to put you on the spot for that at some point here shortly. Awesome. Okay. Well, like I said, download the Viz. The Viz has a few notes in the captions, so that if when and if you're doing this later or something, you're welcome to do that. So I thought we'd start with just a simple one that I know we've shown before, but I'm going to show it again because I think it's an incredibly good warm up and emphasizes a couple of points here, and that is the to just do a donut point. And we're with most of these, what we're doing is we're using MakePoint and we're setting coordinates for where we want something to land. So a couple of big picture perspectives is we are going to land it where Tableau initially thinks we're doing GPS coordinates, and then we're going to do something else with it. And you can't dismiss, you need to not dismiss the background until you have two mark layers. So I've got my donut 1 and I've got my donut 2. And they're by default going to come in thinking that I'm talking about a map. But the reality of it is, like, for me to do a donut, I need to have one of them be a pie and the other one be a circle. So, and then I'm going to dress them up for a minute before I do anything else. So if you're following along, you make sure you have your two donut points mark cards that are showing. You've got your two layers, and then we'll free up on some of the background changes we'll make. And the first one, but I'm gonna put a dimension and measure or two on before I do much else. So I'm gonna put region onto color for my pie, and I want my wedges to be done based on the sales angle, and then for my labeling, I'll have one of each of these. I'll go into my donut, and then that's going to be my circle or my center part, and I'll put sales on it because it'll be actually just a label in the center of it all. I have an absolute mess over there right now. That's exactly what I expected to see, right? And then I'm going to increase the size of this one a little bit so that hopefully it'll show up. And I always change this to being colorblind palette because that's my favorite, and I think it's really fantastic. I don't like light gray, and normally I would spend more time on that, but that'll be good for now. All right, so now having my two layers, that makes it so that I can, in a couple places, I can go and I can turn off the maps. Just to be really abundantly clear, if I go to the map menu at the top and I choose my background maps, to set it to none is a great way to go. And then also that usually shows you what's happening with your coordinates. So on the next one we do, you'll see that. And I'll put this to entire view. I'm gonna uncheck these headers and get rid of some things on that. This is where I can take longitude, latitude off of this. For this one, I am gonna get rid of that. Then I need to do a little bit of cleanup. So I need to do my circle to being white, and then alignment on my label here. So I'll go to this, put it in the middle, and more than likely would want to have this number be a different format. And Lauren, in my mind, I'm going through that thing of wanting to show what you've done with being able to change and have multiple mark display levels inside of the text, but I don't have that set up right here right now. But and know that it is possible, y'all, to have multiple mark display levels and measure display levels without having to wait on the new version of Tableau to come out. So Lauren has a very clever way of doing that. So I'm going to make this about 15 in bowls, and that'll be good enough for that. And then the way that I have personally solved for not being able to, and what we're talking about, see how it rolled these all up to millions when I did this on the center one. That's usually not very helpful. So But my workaround for it has been to do the following, where I go, well, I really want this to be more reflective of that donut parts of a whole thing. So I'm going to add a quick table calculation show it's actually showing a percent of whole, percent of total, that is. And then I'm also going to need to, after it gets that calculation on there, then it sees it as a little bit separate thing. I can give it a percentage, and that shouldn't cause me trouble with the center. So see, this one is recognized it as a different instance of sales, so I don't have any competition here. Fix my labels a little bit. I like to make them a little bit more pronounced. I personally think that this is a great way to create a legend where you don't have to necessarily have to have your color legend right next to your donut, especially if you don't have room for it on your dashboard. That's always a trick. I've had a couple of friends say to me that this makes them potentially inaccessible. Well, I think that that's on to us for being able to make those, make sure that you use a font that is standing out and a color that's not disappearing, and then go ahead and, if you need to, change the font type to be something more pronounced if that's really what the issue is. So, but the deal here is that on a dashboard, you're gonna spend less time trying to get the auto fit, auto sizing working when you hang it together as a mark layer using the map background and the coordinates and all that. It does an infinitely better job of auto fit, auto size inside of containers or outside of a container in a dashboard. So, all right. So, just for my benefit, if you've ever done a donut or pie, you wouldn't do this as a pie, but if you've ever done a donut on a dashboard using map layers or mark layers, which we'll soon be calling chart layers, can you give me a reaction on screen, like a thumbs up or a, and a few of you guys were in class with me, so I hope you have tried it. Just saying. Nobody's tried it? You add a reaction to your Zoom window. Okay, well then this will be new too, because this will actually be helpful, I think. All right. Okay, but for those of you that are here, would you kindly give me a thumbs up if you are likely to try to implement the mark layers type of device in graph or chart? Okay, cool, awesome, very good. All right, well, the next one, as some of you know, I've been lucky enough to be part of a mentorship group with Andy Kriebel this year. This is actually one that if you've watched some of his recent master classes that he does as webinars, this is an exercise that he built that I believe is one of the most approachable ways to get to it, because if you look at what's here, and I unhide the sheets, and I'll look at the dashboard, this literally has just one sheet, okay, and a nice gray background. So to be able to hang this thing together, it takes a combination of multiple marks cards, but it is, in terms of performance, I could have really big data behind this and it be very performant, as opposed to all the layering and precision fitting I would have to do if I was trying to build this with kind of the older method that we used to use of layering things up. So what I did here was I gave you a blank dashboard space where you can, I've got a blank on here to hold it so that it didn't just disappear. So it's got the gray background. And what I'd like for us to do is to use this last chart space, and I'm going to walk through this and encourage you to do it, because they're and then I have another document that's a walkthrough I'll throw into that Google Drive. So for anybody that's came in whenever, I don't know that you saw, just so that everyone has had a chance to hear it, there is a Google Drive link in our chat. Please take advantage of that. It's got the starter workbook, and then it's got the two files in case the data source gets lost along the way. So, all right. I'm sure that never happens to anybody other than me, but I'm constantly moving dashboards and workbooks around. So, all right. So we're going to start here, and I think the thing that is most distinct in my mind about building one like this versus what I might do regularly is you kind of have to pre-think what you're doing, right? And fortunately I have a target here. I'm going to put these bars in place first and come through here and do the labels across the bottom and the labels across the top. And you're going to be surprised at how simple the labeling is. It's just a pattern of making a spot, making it a circle, and then hanging a title around it. The only part in my mind that's actually kind of tricky is there's two parts that I feel like are tricky, and I'll point those out as we go on. All right, so the first thing is I'm going to put the bars in place, and I already have these fields pre-built for you. So if you look through here, a couple of principles are I'm going to use something called a point ID to help guide the experience. And you may see that in my folders now, I reorganized mine. I like them like that. If I was looking at it by table, you can see that I have my sales and budget table. And then inside my what's called sheet 1, it's just a list of point IDs, okay? And that's rather important because the way that Andy created this was every bar in this is representing 5%. And so 25 bars is the 100%. And that's important because it's setting my scale and how we're going to divide out those little Gantt bars. So I only want 25 of these. And in this table, there's 100. So straight away, you can see that I want to change that. And I want to uncheck, I'm going to say none, and I'm going to say use all, go into condition, say by formula, and then I'm going to say only give me the point IDs that are less than 26. And that should give me up till 25. Okay, and you can see on screen that's exactly what I have. All right, so I used all, I unchecked everything, used all, went to condition, set that. All right, so that's my first step. Now I'm not going to have that on screen, but I am going to have that as a limiting filter so that it's going to organize my bars correctly. The other thing is I have 4 regions here, and I'd like to start with just the one. And so I'm going to just make that be one bar that I'm building so that I can, I can come back to this later and I will come back to this later and turn these on. So let me do my normal stuff where I'm going to make it a drop down and put on my customize, because I just think that any chance to clear the screen should be eliminated, as you guys know, the ones of you who know me. Okay, so that's how I'm going to get started and on setting the boundaries. Now I'm going to build the bars. Let's start with the bars anyway. So we'll go to the one that is the bar. I'm going to put it onto there, and you can see that I have actually dots going across this, like the middle of the earth, right? And in just a moment, I'll change my mark type. Well, I guess I can go ahead and do that to Gantt is what I'm doing, because I want the little dashes instead. Now I've got a single dot. But the reality of it is when I pull point ID onto the detail, that's going to reinstate my 25 across the line this way. And notice that they're horizontal versus vertical. I'll fix that in a minute as well. All right, so I've got my bars, I've got my point ID. I'm going to be sure and bring region onto most of these cards. All right, and then I'm going to have another field called marks to color that is already present here, right there. And it's a true false, so Boolean. And it's basically taking the percent of total sales, and it'll be subdivided by the regions because of the way my boundaries I've set up, and multiplied by 25 so that I have that calculation will give me, it'll help Tableau know which one of my Gantt bars to color. All right, so that's important. I'm bringing that onto my color. And you'll see that straight away, it's really, really hard to see, but these first few are red now. All right. Okay, there's one final touch to make this not be dashes this way, but eventually stand up like this. And that is to use I don't know if you want to call it a hack or a trick, but it's to use average of 1, because what it eventually will do, after we release some of this, you'll see that it'll make it stand up instead of being across. I'm going to bring that on to size, and that will change it after I release the background. Okay, so I'll leave this for now, and I'll go on to my second marks card, which is going to be my sales label. And sales label, and I'm not going to pause to look at all of these, but just to make the point, most of them are make point, and they're some sort of coordinates. So I'm starting at 0 for most everything, and I'm telling it where the start and the end, or the X and the Y, all right, is the thinking here. So I'm going to bring this onto my mark layers. There we go. And it gives me a new card to work with. I'm going to bring sales onto label. I'm going to bring all sales onto the tooltip, because I want it to be a member of this worksheet so that I can use it in my title later. That's just a convenient place for me to put it. And region needs to stay put on all these things so that it slices and dices correctly. And so I've got my 4 things here. So now that I have my 2 cards and a few things here, and you can see I've got a little bitty, I guess we can go ahead and format that. So my mark layers for sales label, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make this 15 and probably boldface. I might want to up the game on the font being used. Then I need to go to alignment, and that's where most of these things get really interesting. So for this one, I want it to be below the dot that it's got over there, where it's really difficult to see at the moment, but it'll be more clear on the next batch. And I want it to also be more to the left side of the dot. Okay, so those things, they'll move more when I release the background. All right, so those are my first 2 cards. Now I can go to format, to map, and to go to the background, and I'm going to tell it to go to none. All right, and just like that, now it's looking so much closer to what I'm looking for, right? Except for one thing that I'm amazed how many times I do this and then I forget to do it right. The labels need to be circles. So on every one of these, I have to go through and tell it to be a circle, and then I get the little dot, and then I position my label somewhere around, because you can move it pretty much in 360 in all the directions, not with a lot of granular attention. For that, you would need to like move it around like with what Tableau will let you do with a little bit of specific manipulation there. Anyway, so now do you see how it's looking like an actual chart, like a piece of graph paper? And I've got my 0 axis here. You can see how it goes only up to 26 because of what I did with my limiting the point numbers. And then I've got the single dot with my label here. All right. Okay, so to make the label invisible, really just as simple as if you want to, you can make it white. You can also just turn it to opacity to none, and that will make it disappear. So now this is becoming a good tool for me. I'm going to change the format of this so that I have the number in the pane being a currency, 1 decimal place, and I'm going to roll all these up to thousands. And I think that will work out well no matter for my big and my small regions. All right, so that's kind of like the laying the big foundation. The next 4 things are going to be labeling around the edges. All right, so let me quickly move through that so that you can see that. Any questions so far on what happened there? And the average 0 is what was responsible for making this bar switch from a dash to a stand up. And with basically average of 1, something I learned from Andy, took it from being just a little Gantt piece here to being where it's stretching up to there for the average of 1. Who knew, right? Well, that's what happens, I guess, when you start with Tableau in 2008. So in any case, let me add those next pieces. So my next label is going to be the region label. And each thing I'm going to add, I'm going to drag it onto the canvas to the top left corner to mark layers. And first thing, need to change it. If it's a layer and that's going to be a label, I need to change it to be in a circle. Then I get my little dot. You can see where it is what you have to work with. Then for this one, I will put the region name on it, of course, right? So region name on label. And then I'll format that the same as what I did with the other. I made it 15. I told it to be bold. I upped the ante on the distinction there. See how straight away it's kind of in the wrong spot, and that's all about alignment here. So I'll tell it to go below, and then I'm going to tell it to go to the right because I want it to tuck in underneath the little bars, right? Then I can go back when I'm satisfied with how it looks and go back to circle. So the circle's color and either just reduce the opacity to none, or if you think there's any chance it might show up inadvertently, turn it to white or clear or match your background, whatever that is. But opacity to 0 really should get it done. All right. Now I'm going to move on to doing these little labels across the top. So the first one is going to be my 0 label. And just to show you the calculation that's underneath here, I've got, I'm telling it to go to 1. So it's up here on my 1 graph on my for my Y. And I'm telling it to go to 0.5 for its location. Drag it on here. This time, hopefully I'll consistently be consistent with my changing it to a circle. And we don't really have like a number in our table that's going to correspond to that, to being 0. I am going to go ahead and bring region onto detail. But in this box on my marks card for 0 label, I can double click in the space below and I can give it a literal. All right. Don't know that that's well known or not, but I can give that just, hey, I want to add this into this viz. Okay, it becomes a pill that is a literal value. Drag it onto my label, and there it is. All right, now I just need to reposition it. So I am going to leave it small. I probably will go ahead and make it bold though, because I want to match the mark color, which is a gray. And then I'm going to change the alignment to where it's going toward the right and it's going above the graph as it sits. Okay, and I'm pretty good with that. So I'm going to go over to the color and make it disappear. So there my little dot would be here, and my number for 0 is appropriately roughly at 0. All right, and if you wanted it to hang out more, you could, or whatever. But that's all about that little formula where you have made that XY coordinates happen. Same thing for my next one, which is going to be my 100% label. Pull that one over, get the new card, change the mark type, add region on to the detail for later, make sure that I've got my literal for 100% because I don't have that in my table, nor should it have the load of doing that. This is just literally just a labeling detail, right? So there's no need of that being something else. Go into the label, change to a boldface and match mark color. We're going to do the alignment of above the line and to the left so that it ends where our bars end. Okay, so I'm good with that. I'm going to change this to being opacity of disappear, please. Okay, good. All right, now we need to mark where the value is. So this is where my percent of sales will come in. And we need a actual point that is going to be using percent of total sales. And so it says make my point and then go up to 1, which is at the top of the bars. And it's using percent of total sales and basically dividing it down by 25 because of the way we've done our bars and the math and the increments of that. So bring actual points on here. Make sure to change it to a circle so I get a dot. I'll bring the value, the metric for it, onto the label so I get the actual number. Now I need to change the color. I basically need to update the presentation of it all. And on this one, I'm going to use a red that kind of matches the color of my bars. And thinks we also might bring it to medium so it stands up a little bit more. And then put it above the bars and in the middle or to the left. Just kind of depends on what you feel is working with your bars. So I've seen it done both ways in the time I've been hanging out with the group at my mentorship group. I think that works really well. Then we're going to bring the opacity to 0. And so there we go. Now, there are a couple really important finishing touches to get it from the single bar to the 4 and sharing the view. And that's the couple things that we're going to really dive into next. All right. So we need to make sure that we have a little breathing room in between the barcodes, if you will. And I'm going to achieve that by editing the axis and making it a custom axis that's going to go from -1 and I'm going to take it up to +2. And so that'll give some edges on both sides. All right, I like how that fits. I think that's about right. Okay, so that's that. And you got to be sure and edit the axis before you dismiss all the framework around it to be able to edit that axis. That's really important. Also, I'm going to change it to the entire view because when I get all 4 of them on here, I want them to fill whatever space they have to fill, right? And then there is a kind of a calculation that will go onto rows and columns that is using a combination of indexing and a square root and a round and a size. That's actually probably a longer conversation for right now. So but they are essential to making it so we can split the view. So I'm bringing my rows onto rows and columns onto columns. It looks very similar, just slightly different. You can see the calculation for yourself when you get my workbook. And then an important touch here is I need to tell it to compute using the region so it can make space for the others that are coming. Compute using region, right? So, and beyond all the simplicity that has gone before, those would be our little bits of, would be technical pieces. All right. I'm going to double check over here. I have some finishing touches to do for sure, because like, for example, when I look at my tooltip, it's got a lot of extra things in here I don't need and don't want, but some of that's going to be taken care of when I do the following. I'll go through a series of going to these fields and unchecking being included in the tooltip, as well as I don't need this to have its header shown as well. So I'll do that for those. And I'll do that for my longitude and latitude. You can see it's cleaning up a lot in the background. And now I'm going to go ahead and just to kind of show you what's happening here. I can easily add the other regions on, one at a time or all at once, whatever works, right? Now I'm left with just the basics that we have to face on a lot of other viz of doing something more with my title and getting rid of the background. So the background is just as simple as coming here, making my grid lines go away, my zero line go away, then going over to my row and column dividers and letting those guys be dismissed as well. I could have set that up in the beginning, but I think it's for the sake of sharing all the things you could potentially get into, since Tableau generally, unless you set that to be gone in the first place, that will be on by default. I feel like that's worthy just to show everybody. So my final step here is literally just to do something better with my title. And that's why I put all sales into the sales label in the first place, to make it a member of this, this visualization. So it's here. I can see it like that. I might want to go into my sales label now and make it be a little bit more looking like a KPI and less like a super detailed report. So I'll change that quickly to be a currency custom, display units of millions, and there it is. Okay, so what was that? 15, 20 minutes? Now I did stage it all up, but not too bad, right? And so now I've got this beautiful chart that's going to shrink or expand depending on whatever space I give it, and perform really well because it's not got a lot of extra sheets layered on. And you can drag it as you're practicing. You're welcome to drag it in with the other things. And I just keep in mind, I did put a blank in there to hold the space so that the gray background would sit still, just so that could be from sort the cells from top to bottom. Say more about that. What do you mean by that? Greg, feel free to come off mute. North America first. That's a great idea. Lauren, do you know how we could sort that from top to bottom with North America on first? Or from whoever's got the most up top? It's probably like going to be my sorting here. Compute using.
Yeah, you would need to sort. What is the sort? It says specific dimension right now.
Right.
So go back to the edit. And that sort order, specific dimension, that last option.
Maybe that custom descending, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, custom. Well, and then I would do the region instead of that percent of total sales.
Okay. I'll pick up the name.
And then max.
Max.
And then try ascending.
Ascending or descending?
Yeah, try ascending. Well, I guess that's going to put you. Let's see if it puts Asia first. Okay. So it is working alphabetically.
Yeah. What if we do this for percent of total sales and then we get the big ones on top? I would need to do it for the columns one as well. That's not,
Yeah, if you do descending for that percent of total sales,
Mm-hmm.
and then do the
Okay.
same for the row or columns.
Columns.
Yeah, because now we have North America on top, but we don't have it like to the left. But this should,
There we go.
yeah, there you go.
Isn't that what we just did?
Yeah,
Yeah,
North
good
America
question.
first, Europe second. Awesome.
Pardon me?
Oh, we did that on the fly too.
How about that? Um, looks like percent of sales has kind of lost its way. See for my,
Oh yeah, the label.
yeah, the label is definitely wrong. Let's see if I just reload it, if it'll find its way again. And circle. No, it's got 100% on the top. So it's not, somehow
Yeah, it
that's
looks like
not
the other ones aren't showing up.
at all. Yeah. Oh, you know what I missed here? Look at this. There it is. I just missed putting region on
Oh,
detail. Lots of little things, right? That's cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, I feel good about that. Thank you for the rescue. I mean, the help. Yeah. There you go. Greg, thank you for the question. Great question, man. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
way
kind of a
better.
rush when you figure stuff out on the fly.
With people looking over your shoulder. Yeah. True. Okay, so our challenge to you is to find one small thing that you can add a map layer, mark layers, chart layer. I'm just kidding. Start here with the donut. The donut is pretty straightforward. And should I do this? Should I tempt fate with trying to make the point of how it stretches and does well with this? It just I have like spent a disproportionate amount of time trying to make donuts fit into whatever space,
Oh,
and
yeah,
oh,
it's so much work. That and before when they didn't have the percentage of adjusting the sizing, and they don't have it
uh,
on desktop still, but they have it on
right
cloud.
on
And
cloud,
you made like 10 different donuts and you're trying to get all of them to be the exact same.
exactly the same, right?
Oh, so many
Yeah, that's
hours.
painful. It's painful,
So many.
to be sure. Yeah. All right. Well, so depending on when you came in, the source material for this is in the Google Drive. That's in. Let me just make it right here at the end. How about that? I'm putting it into the chat. So in the chat, you have the link to get into the Google Drive and get the starter, and I'll put the finished one. Well, and to be fair, the starter doesn't have the map layer donut, but it does have these descriptions of the key parts of that. Not all the finishing touches necessarily, but the key parts. And then this has the one. I left this in here with the sheet hidden, and then I gave you 2 spots to build in. Okay, so um, that's. Feel free to dive in, y'all, and just email me if you get stuck. Um, the It's just a matter of practice, and even like kind of a bunch of times. You gotta like plan what it is you're doing, kind of sketch it out a little bit. If you're not a drawer, then use Excel Draw or some tool. But you get something in mind you want to do, and then you're gonna find a way to use that graph paper. I have a couple of friends who've talked about how they literally use graph paper to
Oh,
map
yeah,
out what they're
me
trying
too.
to do. You do,
That's how I
yeah.
started it because I could not wrap my brain around it. So I got some graph paper. I started like shading different cells and like building next. I feel like I was in elementary school again or middle school.
Back in geometry ish. Yeah. And try to like build simple and expand out. I think that's a good plan as well. And then it gets more like robust and more friendly, where you can split things up in a way if you want. Or let's see, this one doesn't have like segment or some other dimension, but like to split them up and bounce them around, just it gets so easy, and they keep their proportions. It's more robust, to be sure. And then you end up with, especially for anything you do like this with KPIs and whatnot, so many fewer sheets, so much less. Like, where's your investment going to be? Is your investment going to be on chasing the maintenance of it, or, you know, some investment in the beginning to kind of stand it up in a way that's more smooth and, you know, arguably just streamlined. So, all right. So, quick reminder what we have coming up in the next little bit here, y'all. We have some good tugs happening this month, and Charleston coming in August. And then in December, DDC in August will be kind of this idea of undo. The bundles have come in two categories recently. The main thing is we'll be demonstrating Tableau Cloud with the AI turned on. I have my University Cloud site where we got that working, and I can show you what it will do. Tableau Plus will do for you there, as well as much as I can integrate it with Tableau Plus metrics I will do. And then also Tableau Next is getting more robust. I've also learned a whole lot about how we need to set it up to make it more successful in being that kind of interactive querying thing that we're expecting from it these days. You know, our expectations have been all modified by our experiences with the LLMs that are the public LLMs. So, you know, beefing up business preferences, by the way, is one of the ways to make Next just really so much more tuned to what we're trying to get it to do. So that's coming up, and then we'll have Kirk McMunro come talk to us in September about composable data sources. So it's going to be a good beginning of, I guess this is technically the beginning of Q2, 3, sorry, and depending on if you're using a fiscal calendar or not. So anything else, Lauren, that I'm not thinking about here?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
And
If there's
thank you.
anything that you guys have questions about, I'd be happy to take a few. And thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. And Greg, what a great question. Didn't know if we'd carry that one off or not. It worked out well. Thank you. All right, team. Hope to see you back next month. And in the meantime, be well. And if you get stuck on any of the stuff we talked about today, just give us a call. Okay? Thanks, Lauren. I
Yeah,
guess
thanks.
that's it. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.